And we appreciate you joining us in the chat. Kevin Moonlick, Trust Divine Mercy, 11. How are you? Project Blue Book, nice to see you. As we continue on here, scrolling on down. Video Game Player, nice to have you back. And who else we got? Rich Hilke's here, everyone. Rich Hilke. All right. Where are we here? I get so excited sometimes. Downshift. What's on the down low? Uncle Dale and his Power Stash are here. Remember, it's now October where we have the run to Halloween. If you see Uncle Dale in Austin, Texas, rub his Power Stash for the next 27 days of good luck. 27 days. Virgil, how you doing? Beelzebrad, nice to see you. And where are we here? Whit Helton, nice to have you back. And King Anthony, how are you? And Low Pro, nice to have you here, my friend. We got 20 seconds. Can I finish? That's the big question right now. Gorgeous Marie, Spaghetti Lee, good to see you. And I'm running out of time, and we made it. Whew. Alan Thomas is our guest tonight, everyone. Let's get ready to rock and roll. Get your horns up. It's time to kick off the week. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. How you doing out there? All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Our good friend Alan Thomas is back tonight. We had him here a couple of months ago. Now, normally I usually like to take 5, 6, 8 months before I bring a guest back, but I was just so impressed with Alan's storytelling and the fun that we had on the air, the reaction from our audience in the chat rooms and online, that I said, screw it, we got to bring him back early. We definitely do, so that's what we're doing. Now, Alan is a Sasquatch investigator out of the beautiful state of California, but he's also had some paranormal experiences and is really into the UFOs. So we're going to run the gamut with Big Bad Alan tonight, and we bring him on in. Alan, how you doing, brother? Good to see you on Spaced Out Radio once again. I got you on mute. That's my fault. That's my fault, trying to do too much at once. How you doing, bud?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Dave?
I am doing fantastic, man, and I'll tell you, it's been a long week. It's going to be a long week for me this week, but that's okay. I'm just very excited to have you here kicking off the week. You know, I was looking at the schedule over the weekend, and you know, sometimes you look at the schedule and you're kind of like, oh man, like who do I got on Monday night? And then I looked and I was like, oh, this is the way I want to kick off a week. This is totally the way I want to kick off a week. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to be back. And I enjoyed the first time so much. I'd like to be a regular, maybe even.
Well, you know what? We got to start doing more panels when it comes to cryptids. That's for sure. We definitely do, and I definitely want you there. And of course, the hunky Nate Rudd from Washington State as well. You know, Nate used to bench press like 500 pounds.
It looks like it.
Yeah, and that was with just his pinky fingers. He was like this.
Yeah.
You know. He was like that, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll tell you, though, I had a good week. Got some firewood, getting ready for winter. Got some firewood yesterday. I got some swag today. Oh, I want to give a quick shout-out, if you don't mind, to our good friend, our good friends at the Rattler, okay? Now, I got a lot of people out there who think I'm full of it when I say, hey, you're not on terrestrial radio. Oh, hell yes, we are. Hell yes, Saga 960, KZFX, KZAX. We got the Rattler, WQEE. Well, Len over at the Rattler, Len Novin, can't wait to meet this guy. Apparently, he's just a party animal. And we're going to party it up in Vegas. He's coming to our SOR party when we finally get to it. But he puts out a nice post with the rundown of the nights and has us on the overnights out there on the Rattler 97.3 FM in Apache Junction, Arizona, which also bleeds into Phoenix, which gives us a massive, massive target audience for this show. So we are real thankful to Len giving us a shout-out tonight. So just had to get that going and had to get that out there. A big thank you to Len and Chuck and everybody who else takes a chance on us, man. I tell you, I would love to see more radio stations get as excited about having us on like the Rattler and all the other stations, Saga 960, man. It just makes it so much better. So that's a little shout-out right there. Little shout-out. But for our audience members who may not know about you, Alan, you know, you're an experiencer, you're an investigator, you're a little bit of everything. How'd you get started in all this? Let's put up a little reminder here.
Well, for me, it was seeing a Bigfoot in 1987. And then about a dozen years ago, something like that, I didn't know that there was anybody around that experienced a Bigfoot. And I hooked up with some guys that I found that like to go out Sasquatching. But they also like to go alien hunting and ghost hunting and all this other stuff, paranormal everything. And we hooked up and we started doing a show called Paranormal Central, where we interviewed, David Paulides, Ron Moorhead, all kinds of people, several different times. And it got me hooked. I was absolutely hooked.
And for you, being an experiencer, being a little bit of everything that's kind of going on there, man, what's your favorite? What's your favorite? Because we all have a favorite.
For me, it's Bigfoot, only because I saw one. I watched him for like a couple hours, but then I've also seen UFOs, and but my favorite's Bigfoot. Second favorite, UFOs.
I'm pretty much the same way, but I don't have a number two. I don't have a number two whatsoever. I just love these topics. I love talking about them. I love hearing about people's experiences. When you hear people's experiences, today it seems like we are becoming very angry in this field, and we want that damn proof. We want that photo. We want that video. And even though we're going to get that photo, we're going to get that video, we're going to tear it apart and call it fake and call it a bunch of BS and rip it apart left, right, and center. But you know what? For me, man, I've taken a step back, and I really enjoy the stories that people are telling us. And I don't think we take enough time anymore to just sit back and relax and enjoy the woo a little bit of these crazy encounters that people are having.
I agree. And actually, before the internet and all that, that's all we had. You know what I mean? And TV shows, and everybody knows how that is. They write them and everything, and it's all dramatized and rewritten. It's not really the original story. But I always liked going and talking to people face to face. And now we get to do it on like how we are tonight. We're almost face to face. I'm looking at the camera and hearing you, and I love it. I mean, I'm absolutely addicted.
Well, you know what? I'm addicted too on it, dude. And do you have a favorite story of someone else's that you've interviewed over the years that just really stuck with you?
Yeah. And it's actually a UFO one. Believe it or not, it's my favorite story that I ever heard.
Tell me about it.
Well, this one, they didn't see any aliens, and they were... it was a family flying in an airplane, and they lived in a house that had their own hangar and their own runway, like a little community like that. And they went somewhere, he didn't say where, but on their way home, a giant, he said, like mothership came up like really fast and just started pacing him like 50 feet off the wing. He said it was massive, huge, like a giant ship, like a cargo container, something like that big.
Wow.
He said they were all looking out the window at it, and all of a sudden, it had windows and everything, and I guess they could see like the little aliens looking out the windows. But all of a sudden, this big door opened, and all these UFOs started coming out of it, little ones, but they were still bigger than their airplane, and it surrounded their plane, and they were just tripping. All the way around the plane had these UFOs all the way around it. The next thing they know, they're waking up at home, and the first thing they did was run out to see if their airplane, was there. I mean, they're in bed, and they get out and they run out to the hangar, and their airplane's all put away just like how they would put it away, and they don't know what happened. To me, that's my favoriteest one, even though I have probably better ones, more exciting and everything. That to me amazes the what out of me. That, like, how did you go from 9,000 feet to at home in bed with your plane put away? I mean, that blows me away, dude.
You know what? There's so many stories that we all have heard over the years. I think one of my favorite stories that I've ever heard on this show is about. It's not even paranormal. It's more about Nelson Dellis, who is he's a 4-time United States memory champion, and he has failed to summit Mount Everest 4 times now. His body will only let him get to within a couple hundred feet. And the stories of him where literally he's feeling great, he's on the run, and they're passing green boots, and they're passing all the dead bodies on the way up, and then all of a sudden he gets hit, man, where like he starts getting the black tunnel vision, and he can barely breathe. He's starting to cough up blood and all of this, and he had to fight for his life to come all the way back down. I mean, that's as surreal as it gets. I mean, on the woo side of things, I mean, we hear so many beautiful stories about this, but probably the eeriest one comes from a lady we had on a few years ago named Karina Sables. She's a Canadian abductee where literally she tells this haunting story being in Aldergrove, British Columbia, which happened to be right where I lived, like 12 miles away when this was going on, and here she was watching black triangles this black triangle come out of the sky, and she got missing time, and then next thing you know, she's getting visited almost on a nightly basis. It's now affected her children, it's affected her grandchildren, and it's just driving her absolutely bonkers. I just couldn't imagine. She can't hold down a job because she's always tired. She can't hold down friends because friends can't handle the stories anymore. And, I mean, talk about an impact on a life, this ET contact, man. I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
It changes people. Just like seeing a Bigfoot, you're changed forever. You can't go in the woods anymore and be relaxed, like go lay down under a tree and go to sleep. And I mean, I know so many people now that have encountered the aliens, and their whole world gets turned upside down. They get called crazy. Even they freak out. They got to be home before dark. All kinds of weirdness, they're afraid of. Like, they don't go outside. Even though it doesn't help, these things come in their room with them. And I mean, and you know what I found is the aliens actually like attach to families, and they might skip over a generation, but they always will be around that family. Almost like demons. Demons do the same thing.
Yeah, I noticed that. What do you think it is regarding this commonality, this family lineage? What do you think's causing that?
I don't, well, personally, me, after, interviewing hundreds of people and looking them in the eye and questioning them over and over and and my best friend being an abductee himself, I actually think they're demons. I don't think they come from, rated reticuli or whatever. I don't think they come from there. I think they're here all the time, been here, and they lie like crazy. Like my one of my friends, you guys probably all know her name's Heidi Hollis.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about, she would do the UFO section of our show, and she was telling us one time off camera, how we sit around and chat off camera, and she actually was channeling aliens. That's how I even found out about her. Like, as soon as the internet came on, I was searching aliens, and I came across Heidi and the Hat Man and aliens, but she was channeling aliens. Well, when she realized she thinks the same thing I do now, that they're more demonic than anything. But they came into her house, and she heard them in there, and this is after she quit channeling them. And she went in, and there was like 5 of these little weirdo dudes, in her living room, and she started freaking out on them and telling them they had to get out. And one of them was picking up a picture of her nephew off the table or a bookshelf, and he was looking at it, and she ran over there and took it from him and punched him to the ground, right? Punched this alien right to the ground. And when he fell, he turned into her nephew, of the age the nephew was, and was saying, don't hit me, sounding just like her nephew. And then, she knew that it wasn't really her nephew, even though it would have, she said it could have made her think it was her nephew. It was that good. But only the picture, he was 12 years old, and really he was 32. So he turned into the 12-year-old nephew and fell on the ground like, don't hit me. And she chased him out of her apartment. And that, I don't know why they want to follow certain families. Maybe somebody did something, or I think once you get it's almost like the Bigfoot thing. You have an encounter, and then after that, you're like prone to have more encounters with them. And it's the same with the aliens. You have an encounter or an abduction, and then after that, they come for you. And a lot of times I find out, like, you don't even know you were abducted. They wipe your memory, and you might have been abducted 1,000,000 times and you don't even know it. You go to bed, you go to sleep, you're abducted all night, you don't know, and then you wake up in the morning. And then sometimes you're awake when they abduct you. You go through the wall, and you remember some bits and pieces, and then you're waking up. And that's almost the story for almost every alien abduction.
Unless you wake up on the table.
I know I have some stories of that, but...
Oh, it happened to me, dude. It happened to me.
What, dude?
Yeah,
really?
Man. It happened. It happened to me. I'm trying to get rid of, just for our audience here, I'm trying to get rid of this echo that's going on here, and it's annoying me in my headphones, and I'm trying to work with it. And I got Chuck, our audio guy, he's working on it from his end, and we're trying to figure it out right now. So just bear with me on it here. Like that, hearing myself right there. So I know if I turn down this pot, I'm not going to hear it. But the main thing is, with these abductions that are going on, when you have them, when you're hearing people talk about these abductions and what they're going through, what's some of the stories you're hearing?
Well, I got one where it was a family and they contacted us, and they were being abducted, but it was one of the ones where they didn't remember very much. And one night the girl was coming home, and it looked like a 747 was coming in and was going to crash into their house. So she ran in the house, got everybody up, and they ran out. The dad was in his underwear, and they're running down this really busy road. Their dog got ran over in the process. And when they looked back after running a ways, they looked back and the plane didn't hit their house. There was no plane. There wasn't anything. So they went back and they called us and we interviewed them, and that they started getting abducted from there. And we went out and interviewed them again. They were telling us about, floating through the ceiling and some of the things that would happen on the table, like what you're talking about. And they moved in. They were out in the country. They moved into the city, and they called us again. And this time they were saying that the aliens came in. They kept coming in, and they weren't abducting them, but they wanted their wand back. They had a name for it, but it was like a wand. And every night they would be in there. Where's our wand? One of you took it. You took this tool, and nobody would say anything. And so they every night, and all night long. And then one night the alien there was a taller alien, and he was like the boss of all the aliens that were there. And he said, "Look, he started threatening them with their life, like." If you don't give us this back, we're going to, they're going to do something to the family, to all of them. And they're going to start with the mom. And the little kid, the little one, he was 8 years old. He ran in his room and he came back with that wand thing. And they immediately took it from him and left. And then they thought that was it. But they still were getting abducted. And finally they moved out of town, and I haven't heard from them since. But I hear, I don't know. To me, it's at first I was like, I seen UFOs, but I never heard anything like some of these stories. Of like they have things in them. Like my buddy Adolf, he has an implant in his nose up here. All kinds of horror stories coming from inside the UFO. That they do to them. Really a trip.
It is a trip. So when you kind of look at everything with the stories that we're hearing and what we're seeing in ufology today, what do you think is going on? What's the story that you believe?
I believe that they're here not to be nice to us or anything like that. And I'm not really sure, because they lie, like they tell people stuff and show them things, and then they change their story. Like way back, like I have interviewed some people that were abducted way back, like the 50s, and one of them is he was burned. The light shined through the window, and it burned him. And he didn't even know it. And he was a cop. And when he got back to and what's weird is my dad was a cop and worked with him. But he was burned halfway. And they told him that they were from a planet not far away. Now, he's still having the problems. He's an old guy, retired. His son is actually a rocket scientist, a real rocket scientist.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're going to go to break here on Spaced Out Radio. Alan Thomas. We're sharing weird stories of ghosts, UFOs, aliens, cryptids all night long We're in for a fun one tonight on Spaced Out Radio, so stay tuned. Alan, give me a second here because I just got to call my my audio guy.
How much time do I got?
We have 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll be right back. All right?
Yeah. Hey, Chuck, how you doing? I'm on mute. 1 second here. I'm just muted here, audience, talking to my audio guy, so please bear with me. Like, for instance, I'm potted up here. Let me just unmute here, okay? My audience might be able to hear you. We got like a couple minutes here. Let me just. Oh, of course, it's not letting me. There we go. Okay, just give me a second, audience, and Alan. So
No problem.
for instance, I'm seeing on my board right now it start to light up. So like right there, where it's starting to get a little bit of echo feed going on. Like, see how it spiked there for a second?
Yeah, but you don't hear it anymore?
No, I'm not hearing it. No.
Okay.
We got minute 21.
Okay, what is channel 1 again?
Channel 1 is would be the computer, so StreamYard.
Yeah, you seem to be coming back
Yeah.
You recall this, right?
Yes, I have. Like there, that came back really hot through. We got about 30 seconds.
Okay, well, you're going to live with us for now. Maybe pot it down a little bit. You sound
Okay.
pretty loud.
Okay. We'll work on it maybe tomorrow. Okay. Okay, bye. Sorry about that, everyone.
Does it do it when I'm muted? too?
No, it's on my end through my board.
Okay.
All right, let's get going here in like 5 seconds. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Pumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with our good friend Alan Thomas. We're talking UFOs, aliens. Now, Alan, right before the break, you were telling the story about your dad and your dad's friend.
Oh, the sheriff. Yeah, so he got burned, and they were telling him that, you know, when he got abducted, they told him that they were from a planet not far, right? Like Venus or something like that. And this is in the 50s. Now, fast forward, I was interviewing him probably about 4 years ago, and we were going to have his uniform tested and see what's inside the uniform, if there was anything left of it. And he was saying that he's still getting abducted, but only now they told him that, you know, they aren't really from Venus or whatever. They're from way out there, a few light years, like 4 light years. It's because our technology advanced where we know what's on Venus. So they had to change it now to where it's real far, you know. And I've heard that before on other people, and I started thinking, wait a minute, you know, their story keeps changing on where they're at. And now it's real far out there. I don't think they're from way far out there. I think they've been here. You know, they're stuck here. Maybe like the demons, you know, stuck on the earth.
That's a pretty negative profile you have going on to them aliens, though, buddy. I mean, that they're demons, that they're evil, that they're liars and everything. How did you come to that conclusion for yourself?
By talking to lots of people that get abducted, and they find out, like, they get shown things, and then what they get shown doesn't happen. Just that they get told a lot of different things, and then they find out it was not true. And I haven't heard them tell the truth yet, far as I know. Everyone, I mean, they never talk to me, but the people are finding out they don't tell the truth. And now they don't know each other, and they're all saying the same thing. They don't tell the truth. And then it makes me, what is the truth? Like, even with the Bigfoots, what is the truth? You know, with the demons, what is the truth? You know, what is the truth? We don't know the truth. So as long as they're telling the truth, they're not cool to me.
Well, I mean, but you're only hearing people's stories. You don't know whether or not that's accurate or not, though.
At first you don't, but after you talk to, 30 or 40 people in different places in the state, different cities and everything, and they all are talking about the same thing, basically saying the same thing, you start forming an opinion. And actually, like, every time I think I know, what's going on, I find out I don't know anything. So now I'm totally wide open on it. My opinion could change again, even from what I'm saying right now. This is just where I'm at this point. Because I was they're from Alpha Centauri or whatever. I was going with the flow, and now I'm still going with the flow, kinda, that they don't tell the truth.
Man, do you feel ripped off a little bit by that, or what?
No, it just makes me want to know more. It keeps me on the trail and holding their feet to the fire, anyways. like they better not run into me, because I'm going to be full of questions and stuff like that. I want to know what's the truth, and I think our government knows, or multiple governments in the world know, and they're not telling the truth. Everybody's like covering up the truth for some reason, and I don't know why. I wish I knew.
Well, literally next to Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens, this is the second biggest story in humankind's history. So obviously, if we take Roswell for what it was, there's a lot of different technologies and secrets that there are people probably who feel that many of us are not in the know of what is going on, and they don't want us to know, whether it's due to the technology advances or anything along those lines. So my question to you regarding all of this is how do we really know what is going on when we can't even figure out what is going on with everyday stuff around here?
Man, that's a good question. It really is. I have a feeling, though, that the truth isn't far away. You get that feeling, that everything is going to be like busted wide open here pretty quick. Like the United States government came out and said, we have alien craft. And then that's the last thing you heard for a little while. Then all of a sudden they come out with these videos, right? Showing them Tic Tacs or whatever. And they know something, but are they really telling us anything yet besides that? No. I'm waiting for the rest of the story, just like everybody else, I guess.
Oh, I know that, man, but I just don't know what is actually out there, what is holding on, what is happening with this entire scenario. Look, if you follow UFO Twitter and you follow the game that's being played and the numerous narratives that are going on out there, the only thing that it's going to do is give you a migraine, And I come down to it, Alan, and I honestly believe this, and I've been talking to some people deep in this scenario here recently about this. I really do believe the answer is with the experiencers. I do not believe the answer is with the government. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think the experiencers, they know what they know, just like me seeing a Bigfoot, or I think they know what they know. Like my best friend Adolf, for instance, he's been drawing aliens head pictures since he was a kid, and he's had all these experiences with them, and some of them are, they've scared him so bad he won't stay out at night. I barely talked him into camping at one of the abduction places recently. So hopefully next summer we're going to go camping at one at Courtright Lake. But he won't even stay outside at his house at night. He's totally afraid of them. And that's almost goes across the gamut of, I have met a few people that believe they're benevolent, like they're they have a name for them. They look like us and all that. But they have some kind of breeding program or DNA thing going on. But since I don't trust any of them, because I just don't. I'm not going to trust anything until I can see it or touch it or feel it or read it or experience it, I'm having a hard time with believing anything anymore, like except for what I see and get lots of stories on, and they tell me the same thing. But I'm not afraid of them like they are yet. Yeah.
Have you had any encounters personally?
Not with aliens, just with ghosts and Bigfoots. The Bigfoots, I've had about 7, and the aliens, a handful, probably about 10. Or no, ghosts. I mean ghosts. About 10 experiences with that. But hanging out with alien abductee all the time, we do everything together. His buddy, they were camping. I'm friends with him, and he's still getting abducted. It's cost him relationships, several relationships, because once they start having girlfriends or get married, then they become abductees after that, and sometimes their exes still get abducted after, so they never had any abductions, and then they continue to have it after they split up, thinking that's going to end it. The ex does, and I don't know. I know that most everybody is afraid. Most everybody I know.
Well, I think we're afraid because we don't know what is going on. We don't know how it's happening, and it's out of control. Whether or not there is some scary elements of it, I would agree with that. I'm not going to sit here, oh, it's all peace, love, and light, and they hand us daffodils and tulips afterwards. I'm not going to sit there and say that, because I know from my own personal experiences, as well as much like you, interviewing a number of people over time who have had these issues, I am noticing that, there are some scary aspects to this that we just do not know or understand. That being said, I'm wondering, in regards to the entire scenario here with ET abduction, and the stories you have heard from your friends and people you've interviewed, what's the commonality outside of the fear aspect that they are going through?
I think the most common part is experiencing the aliens show up and then waking up and not know what happened in between. That's the most common thing, that of all the experiencers that I've talked to, is they start to have an alien experience, and the aliens are there. They go through the wall, and then they wake up. And that's the most common thing, is that one. And it's like, why do they suppress your memory? What are they doing to you? I actually believe they're doing some kind of a DNA thing, because they're always going after their, when you do get the people remember what happened on the ship, they're going after the women's eggs and the men's semen. I don't know how to say it real nice, but that's usually what they're going after. And then I've talked to a couple of like Adolf, his girlfriend. She was pregnant. They got abducted, and then all of a sudden she wasn't pregnant, and she was like 4 months pregnant. And all of a sudden, no baby.
Yeah, we've heard that. We've heard that story a number of times over the years here with that, Alan. And I don't understand what is actually truly going on and truly happening in regards to that potential hybridization program. I mean, there's a lot of dark paths that go along with this. But, getting back to the experiences people are having, are they the people you talk to, are they seeing marks on their bodies? Are they seeing any type of identifying scars?
Oh, yeah. And also the little, the things in them, the little, I can't remember what they call it, but they have them. and like Adolf has one right in the where the third eye would be at, and the doctor said they could take it out, but it would be kind of risky, where it's at, up in his nose, way up in there, and he opted to keep it. I would have opted to get rid of it, but he opted to keep it, and a lot of them don't even know they have it until they go in for a medical procedure and get an MRI or some x-rays or something like that, and then they wind up having this little thing inside of them that they didn't know they had. And for me it's almost surreal. Like I know John Lear, and I talked to him quite a bit, and he thinks, like he was telling me, he thinks that everybody got abducted, everyone, and we regularly do, and they take us to the moon and do something inside the moon, and that's where they're based at, and he thinks they're actually good, and they're watching over humanity and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, and we've had a lot of chats about oh man, what's his name that worked at S4?
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, Bob Lazar, and I guess he's like along the same lines as what John Lear thinks on that. And that they can travel through time. He says they can take you and then put you back, like almost right at the same moment that they took you. So I mean, it gets really deep, when you start talking to all these people, it starts getting hard to have any kind of a opinion, because it's almost amazing what they could do.
Very true.
But I did, I noticed that Bigfoot and aliens, they almost have the same qualities, kind of like they can disappear. They do like the same things. They can mind speak, different things like that. And then sometimes they get seen. Like we were in Oregon on a deer hunt, and the tent disappeared on me and my wife, in between two other tents. And we woke up. I woke up first. The tent was gone. The floor was there. All our stuff in the tent was there. But the tent part, the ceiling and the walls, was gone. And there was UFO reports for like 3 days before that. And then when we were there, someone saw a Bigfoot. And the same day, the brother-in-law saw a UFO, and we decided to called the hunt. We were going to be there 3 more days, but we decided to just call it and go home, because everybody was freaked out. One person saw a Bigfoot, one person saw a UFO. I lost my tent. I don't even know what happened with us. I mean, we might have got abducted. I don't know. It's weird.
Oh, maybe you did get some aliens.
It could be. I don't know. I've often wondered about that. And then after talking with John Lear a few times, I wonder, have they been doing it all along? And I'm one of the ones that doesn't remember anything. Like, I don't know.
We've got about 5 minutes here to go before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Alan Thomas is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to continue with the UFO talk until the top of the hour. We'll get into some paranormal stuff at the second hour of the show. But for you, what's the biggest secret of all of this that you want to know? What's itching you?
I really want to know what the truth is. Like, are they really from other planets, or are they just living in another dimension right here? I just want to know the truth, the truth. Do they time travel? Like I have some friends that we interviewed that they time traveled, that we have the technology to time travel. And one of them is my good friends. I talk to him all the time. And I mean, they were time traveling since they were kids. He was saying he went to the Mars with Obama.
Who's that? Mashago?
No, it's William Stillings.
William
In fact,
Stillings.
I just talked to him the other day, and he was telling me
we got to get him on the air.
I might be able to get him for you. He just called me this morning, but he said he was having problems with his Bluetooth and hung up.
You just opened up a whole can of woo there with Project Pegasus.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
So okay,
Pegasus.
For our audience, explain Project Pegasus and the entire Mars jump rooms and everything.
Well, do I have enough time?
Well, I'll carry it over, man, if I have to. We got 3 minutes. Let's start it.
Well, how they started is his dad was in the Navy and an officer in the Navy, and brought him in because the tunnel that they ran through was too small for humans, for adult humans, and the adults would like stand up or something, and they would shave the top of their head off, and they would die, or something would happen, and their feet would go through, and they would chop their feet off. So they were using children like Basiago and William Stillings and Obama, and so they could go in different countries, from one to another one, or they could go to different planets. And the question I ask all the time is, okay, so you go back in time, say, and you wind up over there, how do you get back, really? And he said all of a sudden you just start disappearing, and then you wind up back where you started at, like on a timer. And it was like, whoa, that's a trip. And he actually still wants to go to Mars still, but I think he got passed over for that one, the Mars thing. Yeah, that's what they were doing, time traveling.
When was he doing this?
It was when he was a kid, so I don't know how old he is now, probably in his 40s or maybe 50. So he was probably started out at 12 years old. And same with Basiago. That's how they all met. And actually, Basiago, Stillings, and another one, they were trying to get Obama, when he was president, to tell the truth, right? To come out with it that he was a time traveler. And he wouldn't do it. He acted like they were totally crazy. He didn't know him. It made him really mad that he wouldn't talk about it. And he said he wasn't Obama then. He was a different name.
Barry Soetoro.
Sotelo or Totoro. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Yeah. Man, you know a lot about this stuff.
Oh, I love this case. I do. But I will tell you this. I think with Andrew Mashago, where he started going downhill was when he started making claims that he was the next president of the United States. It was all written down. It was all in the manual, in the manuscripts and transcripts. And I think that's where he lost a lot of people over that. I think there was a lot of people who really wanted to buy the story and have some, whether or not it was true. I mean, a lot of times people just want to buy the story. But the minute he started with the whole presidential run and that he was going to be the next U.S. president, and it was in the books because he was told at the table in some secret lunchroom, and then it didn't happen in 2016, that's where everybody kind of threw Bashago in the garbage and said, you know what, you're full of it. We're not listening to you anymore. I mean, the guy runs as an independent in 2016. How do you expect to win the presidency as an independent? But we'll talk about that. Time travel, paranormal, coming up. Alan Thomas on Spaced Out Radio. We're having a good time with our good friend here tonight. We'll be back with more of the mighty SOR when we come back on Spaced Out Radio, Hour 2. All right, we're clear. So, just for our audience out there, I just want to remind you guys, we are having some audio issues tonight that we are working on. We're going to have to punch right through it and be strong and tough. So I do apologize if you hear an echo coming through. Try that. And we're just going to keep trying to work with it as best as we can tonight. It's very frustrating, but just give us a little bit of a break tonight if you don't mind. We're going to continue to have a good show with Alan, though. Let's see here. Oop to Joe's Maine. You've got aliens. Thank you to Dirt Road, Noble Patrick, Spookles, or Spooky Cat, or Spooky Morales, Cat Chaser, Simon, and Cold Warrior for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate it. And thank you for your time and your support. The super chat is a great way to support what we do on this channel on a nightly basis. So thank you very much. Hi Zero Cool, how you doing? And who else has come in? We got a lot of new. Oh, there he is. Are you on the square? Are you on the level? Are you ready to stand right here, right now, before your Davo? There we go. With that fucking echo.
It's aliens, man.
Totally aliens.
Actually, it could be the internet. I've been having trouble all day.
No, this has been happening recently. It's coming through my mixing board. So there's something open on my mixing board that we need to take a look at. We'll have to do that tomorrow to try and get it cleared up.
Does it have Bluetooth?
No. Show you my mixing board.
Cool.
Yeah, so this is your channel right here, that where my audio is coming through. And my audio should not be coming through your channel, and yet it is.
Right.
So that's the issue. That's the issue. Yeah.
See, I have a little bitty, it's not bitty, 12-channel mixer I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
But I just one line in and then the USB to the computer.
Yeah, well, it's kind of cool. But Peter Steins, how are you? Who else is here? Black Dragon has arrived. Who else is coming in? We got a lot of new listeners in here tonight, and I apologize once again for the little bit of audio issues that we are having.
I seen some of my followers in there.
Yeah, man. Reno, how are you? Welcome to our channel. If you're new here, just to give you guys a quick breakdown, we are a live radio show, so we do take commercial breaks at the top and bottom of the hour. And because of that, that's why you get this little banter kind of in between. And if you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. Hi, Jeff Steve Garvey. How are you? And, we are here 7 days a week from 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight Eastern. And we're having a lot of fun bringing these topics to you. So continue to rock and roll with us. We'd really appreciate it. And go from there. And but we're working on an audio issue tonight. I do apologize. Normally it's not like this, but it is what it is tonight. It is what it is.
Sorry about that.
Well, that's all right.
Gotta set my wife up real quick with something. She's gonna make me a coffee.
Nice. Ross Smith, how are you?
Yeah, it's like, it's so cool. Maybe you could see my mixer.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Now we're getting real. Oh, this is so frustrating for me.
Oh, I hate when that happens, man.
So frustrating me. Yes, it is a Sasquatch shirt that I have on. Brian Bowden, the man with 885 podcasts running simultaneously, sent me this one and like 7 other shirts today. And I got them, and it's like, this was my favorite. I had to put this one on. No, his shirt does not say Papa Don't Preach. It's not a Madonna shirt, Joe. It says Papa and the S word. Notice how it blurs out on the S word there? That's actually pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, my grandkids made that for me. I have another one, too, where they say I'm Squatchy. I'm Grandpa Squatch, but only I'm Squatchier.
Nice.
Something like that.
Very nice. I'm not gonna give you a hard time because it's from your grandkids. So yeah. you get the freebie there. You get the freebie there. Holy cow. Okay, here we go. We're coming live in 10 seconds. And happy birthday, Eddie Haskell, from all of us here. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Imbrute. Imbrute is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Alan Thomas. He's a podcaster, researcher, investigator, and you know what? Pretty proud dad and grandpa, too. Hanging on out with us, talking all things weird and strange. We're going to get into some paranormal here because you've had some wicked paranormal experiences over the years as well.
A lot of them. I actually had ghost things way before Bigfoot. Wow, thank you.
Look at that. His wife brings him a nice coffee for the studio there. A little bit of cream in there. Probably a couple teaspoons of sugar.
Oh, yeah. How did you know, man? You're psychic.
You are a double-double kind of guy, man.
Yep.
So tell us about your first paranormal experience.
My very first one, I worked at a mall, and I was security, and they gave me the 4 to midnight shift. It was like 4 to midnight, midnight to 8, and then 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. That was my schedule for like 2 years. I didn't know if I was sleeping. I didn't know if I was, I didn't know what I was doing because I had such a weird schedule. But on one of the nights after the mall closed, they had a little truck and I could drive around in the parking lot. And I was out there just having a good old time driving around in this empty parking lot, huge parking lot. And there was some maintenance guys inside vacuuming. And one of them gets on the radio and he starts telling me to knock it off, quit doing something, and I was laughing at him and making fun of him, and he kept saying, man, knock it off. Like, it is not funny. You're not funny, So I thought I would sneak in there and see where he is and what's going on and try to find out really why he's getting so upset with me on the radio. And I was messing with him really hardcore. And when I went into the mall, I went into the center part of the mall, like the main entrance, I guess. And they have these big, like Macy's on one side and big box, store on the other side, J.C. Penney's or something like that. And I could see that he was all the way down by the Macy's, vacuuming way down there. And I had just locked all the doors to that, but I didn't see him. He must have been just almost to the doors, like 20 minutes ago. So I don't want to scare him. He's got his headphones on, listening to music, and I'm walking down there, and I start following the electric cord to him, and I get down there, and I don't really want to scare him too bad, so I kind of didn't walk right up on him and tap his shoulder because I think he would have died or something. So I made a big circle around him and got in front of him. As soon as he see me, he ripped off his little earphones and he started yelling at me, like, man, dude, you're scaring me. Like, you got to quit doing this, man. I mean, like, you got to stop. I'm like, stop doing what? And he's telling me, you know what you're doing, and we're standing right over his vacuum. It's still running, right? It has like a drive thing on it. So he could sit there and just spin, but he could also push a button and make it go, like self-propelled. And we're sitting there, all of a sudden it shuts off, and he looks at me, and his eyes get really big, and he's like, looking at me, he says, like, that's what you were doing. I'm like, oh. I go, well, I didn't do it. So then we started following the wire back, and it went back about 200 feet down the mall, and it was unplugged. It was like, whoa, I told him, well, maybe it was just ready to fall out. You were at the end of it, So we walked back to the vacuum. We didn't plug it back in. We just walked back to the vacuum, and we're standing there, and now he's freaking out because I didn't do it. And he said that it happened like 15 times that it would be unplugged, and he'd have to go all the way back and plug it in. I'm like, wow, that's a trip. And while we're talking about it, the vacuum came on. It was like, whoa, dude. Something plugged it in, And then while we're standing there freaking out on that, there's 10 mall doors that I just locked 20 minutes ago. They all flew open. And like, bam. And then how they go slow close. And they all came back and closed. And I just took off running down the mall. That was it for me, man. I ran down and I got in my little truck and I was on the radio telling him, you're on your own, man. Because I'm not hanging out in here. So then I'm like, I have to go check those doors. I can't leave them all unlocked. I have to go look. And so I drove down there, and then I jumped up on the curb and I drove the truck up to the doors. Normally I don't drive on the walking area, the sidewalk and everything. But I drive all the way up there, and then I pull in where I could reach over and grab the door out the window and shake it. They were all locked. So then a week goes by, and as soon as I lock them all up, I don't go back in there. I'm staying out, right? I'm not going to let anything happen. That freaked me out. That guy quit. Like 5 days later, he quit. So, and I'm getting ready, like I'm on my 4 to midnight shift again, and we leave one door of the mall on the main entrance open so that the managers and workers, when they close up and count their money or do whatever, they could go out that one door. And then I just stay right there until I can lock that door. So it's like 10. Mall's been closed for probably 3 hours, 4 hours. And I'm standing there, and I know I'm going to get off in a couple hours, so I'm writing down my incident report, all the things that I did that day on this little thing. And a lady walks up to me, and you know how you can see the peripheral vision, out the side? This lady walks up, and she walks up to the little booth I'm at, and she says, excuse me. And I told her, just a second. I had like 2 more words and a period. She's like, excuse me. And I'll be right with you, And I finish it. I put the period. I turn and look at her. And right when I look at her, she just went.
Disappeared.
Yeah, man, I ran like the wind. I was out that door and way out in the parking lot. I ran way out there. I watched her just fade out like smoke. And, that's just a few things that happened in that mall. That mall that we had workers walking off left and right. They started to add on to the mall, and they were doing a construction thing. And I was looking at the blueprints one day in the middle of the night. It was my midnight to 8 in the morning shift. And I was in the construction side of this extension. And me and my buddy, one of the other guys, we were racing the electric platform things, you can go up and down on the platform. And we were racing them around, and I realized there was some blueprints down there. So I went down there and was checking out the blueprints, and it had a history kind of like of all the mall being built. And I was digging through there, and I found like when they first built the mall, like down that end of that part of the mall, there was a graveyard right there, and they had to move it. And so they moved it to build the mall on that end. And on that end, when they were constructing it, the tools were getting moved around, and buckets were knocking off of stuff. And and while we were standing there, all this stuff fell off of the scaffolding and landed on the ground. It had a bunch of bolts in it. Scared the what out of me, man. So we ran outside, and then we got on the roof, and we were just like stayed up on the roof talking. That we could see every direction on the roof, and we just stayed up there until it was time to go home. But oh my God, that was so scary, man. It was a scary place.
No kidding. Did any paranormal investigators ever investigate this mall to see what was causing all of this activity?
The mall won't allow it. After I became an investigator, the same people are running the mall. So I went back in there and I asked them if we could do an investigation. And they said, we don't want that. We don't want anybody to know. We don't want any publicity on it. We want it to be a wholesome family, whatever, shopping experience. And no, they can't, you can't come here.
What mall?
We tried to do it in the parking lot, and the security ran us off out of the parking lot around 1 or 2 in the morning.
Which mall was this?
It's called Fashion Fair Mall in Fresno. You can look it up online. It's still there. And scary place, man. Scary place. There might be some people might have wrote stories about it online. I never thought to check that, actually.
I'm actually checking right now.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Yeah, and then I moved up to the foothills. I raised all my kids. I had 6 kids, 5 boys and 1 girl, and I raised them up in the mountains, and we got this 20 acres, and there was several mines on the property, old copper mines. And my kids, I never experienced anything, but my kids and my wife, they would say something thump them on the head. They said they saw people peeking from behind the dressers, and little people running around on this ranch. And I never experienced anything at that place, but all my family did.
Do you think that paranormal investigation is ever going to solve the life after death scenario?
It might, because I've also, I don't know if I shared this last time, but I also died. And that's why I don't have the ranch anymore. The doctors were doing an angiogram, and they accidentally blocked the femoral artery after doing where they put the catheter in. And 8 days later, I was losing my leg, and my right leg. And I went in there, and when they realized what happened, they immediately rushed me to surgery. And they're telling me that I might not have a right leg when I come out of it. And at one point, I don't know how or anything. I woke up in a valley, and it was golden, like wheat, golden wheat, and had these big, huge oak trees, and there was no shadows under the oak trees. That was one of the first things I noticed, was there was no shadow. I didn't have a shadow. I mean, it was weird, and it was there was colors that I can't describe, and music and stuff like that all around.
So this is your near-death experience that you've had.
Yeah, and then I'm standing in this valley looking around, and then off in the distance, there's these beautiful snow-covered mountains, and I'm a mountain guy, right? I grew up in Yosemite and raised my kids in the mountains, and I still go to the mountains, like that video I showed you earlier, and it's in the mountains. And so I'm looking at the mountains, and I think to myself, man, if I ever get back here, wherever this is, I'm going to go check out those mountains. As soon as I thought that, I was in the mountains. And I was standing there looking at these beautiful forests. And, when you're in the forest, it has a smell that I love. The smell of the pine trees and the forest and the ferns and everything. I mean, it just makes this really beautiful smell. Well, where this forest it was off the hook. I'm standing there going, I'm taking it in. I'm like, man, I never smelt anything so great. This is the best forest I ever smelled in my life. And I started doing like a turn, all the way around. I'm going to do a 360 and just take this whole forest in, and I'm taking these deep breaths and everything. And as I get 180, I realize I'm overlooking the valley that I was just in. And I could see the whole valley. And all of a sudden, a thought occurred to me that what if I was supposed to meet someone? And here I am all the way up in the mountains. And what if I was supposed to meet someone? Like, that freaked me out. Like, oh, no, I'm missing something. I missed something. So I thought to myself, oh, man, I should have never, left. As soon as I thought that, I was standing back in the valley, and there was these two light beings standing there, and they were pure light. Like, if it would have been my real body, this body, it would have burned my eyes out. They were so bright white. And I realized if I could go, if I squinted my eyes, I could actually tell it was two guys in like Roman kind of looking clothes. And with they had a sash, and this part, it was like a white robe, but it only went down to like their knees, and they had a big leather belt, and they were talking to me in their mind. One of them tells me, mind speak, right? He tells me, are you done? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what? I don't even know where I am. This is all these thoughts are going through my mind. Like, am I done? Like, what kind of question is that? Like, am I done? Like, I don't even know where I am. I don't know how I got here. I have no idea, And then he says it again, like, are you done? I'm like, I didn't answer him, right? I didn't know what to say. Like, I don't know. I have no idea if I'm done. Like, I don't know what you mean by am I done? And before I could even like say anything, I was going to speak with my mouth instead of thinking it. I didn't know they could read my thoughts. It never occurred to me. And all of a sudden he says, "What about your wife and your kids?" It was like, oh, And then I started thinking about my wife and kids, and I could actually see where they were and what they were doing right then. I mean, I could see right where they were, all of them. And I was like, whoa, I mean, like really blown away. But then when I noticed that all of a sudden I got sucked up, like a vacuum sucked me up, it just like, and I started going backwards really fast. I mean, really fast. And I slammed into my body. It was like, boom, like that. And then I opened up my eyes, and the doctor's face was in front of me, but his face was upside down to mine. Like his eyes are here and his mouth is there. And he's like, stay with us, like that. And then I just crashed out again. And then I woke up in recovery room, and they're standing there like, oh, good, you're waking up, And he started telling me I died twice. They had this little thing with a button. He goes, you could push this every 6 minutes for pain, but not yet. We have to tell you these things, right? You still have your right leg. I'm like, oh, I started, yeah, wow, oh man, I do, And they told me all this stuff, and okay, you can push the button. He hands it to me, beep, gone. And then I don't know how many days I remember waking up, and it would be different times. There would be different people in there in the hospital room, and I wake up, and I beep, gone again. And I don't know how long I did that, right? I don't know how long. But that's my story that I know that someday we're all gonna know, right? And when we die, we'll know for sure. I think when we die, we will know. We don't die.
I got to tell you, man, out of all the experiences that I have had of the weird and strange, the one thing that I haven't had is a near-death experience. And I am very, very thankful of that. And I think it's because I have an absolute God-fearing fear, no pun intended, of death. I do. Now, I have had interactions twice with the angel of death. But I will tell you, man, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that at all. I kind of like this living thing,
Yeah, but only you're not dead, man. I mean, you don't die. You live. In fact, over there, after you leave this realm or whatever you want to call it, that realm is more real than this realm. And you're alive. You could travel at the speed of thought. I mean, you can know anything you want. Like I was thinking things that I didn't talk about, but I was thinking about things, and as soon as I thought about the question, the answer came to me, and I knew.
Not me,
man. Like I knew that I was dead, like because I asked myself, like, am I dead? Like, yeah, the answer came, I'm dead, but not dead, right? My body is still somewhere else. It's dead, but only what gives us life inside of our body is over there. And more life, like traveling at the speed of thought, knowing anything you want to know, anything. I mean, all the questions we have right now, they would know. You ask it, And there was a lot to explore. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, I explored the mountains, and I think that's what those guys were asking me. Was I done with my life here?
Oh, for sure.
And they're asking, am I done? Can I carry on over there? But only when I started thinking of my life here, and my feelings were like, I really do want to see them again, But I'm not afraid anymore of death at all, not at all. But I was, just like you, like.
Let's continue this conversation when we come back, because I'll tell you, to this day, I still have major anxiety attacks about dying and death. Oh, I'm going to get freaked out here over the break. Alan Thomas is our guest. We're having a great time here on Spaced Out Radio. Hope you are too. We'll be back with the second half right after this. Scaring the shit out of me here, dude.
Hey, it's October. No, no, I'm just kidding. I didn't mean to.
Oh, that's all right. We'll go down the road, man.
There's nothing to be scared of, really. Nothing. I've talked to a lot. Now, I seek out people that have near-death experiences now, and I've probably read 1,200 near-death experiences, and I've talked to probably a dozen people that had near-death experiences. And some of them like have a car accident, or they die in a hospital after a car accident, and they're laying there and they're barely alive, and then all of a sudden they just sit up and they go to the light, and then they're no pain, no suffering. They love it. I mean, some of them don't want to come back, and they're told they gotta come back. Nobody told me; they just asked me, and I think they were asking me.
I gotta get my friend Daryl on the show. He actually had a near-death experience from a brain aneurysm about 20 years ago, and he actually can recall his judgment.
Wow! Oh my God!
Yeah,
that would be a trip, dude.
Yeah, dude. It's the most incredible story that I have ever heard. Like it brings me to tears. Just when he tells it. Because he's a religious guy now, okay?
Me too.
And he is very, very, like when he gets into his judgment, it was pretty, like, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't even know how to I could not do that story justice.
Well, one of the things I thought about was I was worried about that. Like I heard about getting judged and all that stuff, and it all depended on if I was going to stay or go, right? If I was going to go through that. But I did find out that all the things that we think are important is not important over there.
Right.
The only thing that's important over there is how you treat people and how your heart is, right? Like where your heart is. And that is what mattered,
The weird part for him was he said the judgment was like being in a courtroom where he looked over to his left and literally he was staring at Satan. And he looked to his right, and Jesus was beside him. And he said he never saw God. He said he saw the two cherubim that were beside it, and but he said he was too embarrassed to look at God. And he said the devil on this desk had this giant book of every sin that he committed from the day that he was born. And basically he had like Jesus standing there as his lawyer saying, "Hey Dad, don't worry about it. I got this one covered. Don't worry about that one, Dad. I remember I died for this," and all of this stuff, right? And apparently the judgment lasted 10 human days or something like that. And he was in a
that would kill me.
He was in like on this side. Oh, that fucking echo. He was in like a fetal position in his like almost like a paralyzed fetal position in his hospital room, and then all of a sudden the doctors were telling his wife, you couldn't make it, and then at the end, and I'm paraphrasing the story here very poorly, at the end of his judgment, he said he heard God speak to him and say, Daryl, you've been forgiven for all of your sins. I'm going to give you the choice. Do you want to come in to heaven, or do you want to go back down and live your life? And Daryl said, God, he goes, my son is just 2 years old. I really want to raise my kids, go back and raise my kids. And he said, all of a sudden, it was like a snap of a finger. He was in his body, out of his coma, and his body was straight, and everything was back to normal. And his doctors were like, what the hell's going on here? Hold on, my friend. We got 3 seconds. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight speaking with Alan Thomas. Right before the break, he was telling us about his amazing near-death experience, and we're going to continue down that road because, Alan, I got to tell you, man, I've never had a near-death experience. I don't want one. It scares the daylights out of me. I realize with people such as yourselves or others who I've talked to say it's just a beautiful experience, but, man, I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah, it's kind of a trip, man. After that experience, I'm more, I don't know what you call it, empathic. Like I can feel people and feel like if they're having a bad day or if they're being emotional, if it's anger or if they're happy, or I can kind of know stuff. Like I can know when Bigfoot's around now. I could sense it. I could sense things. And also my relationship with God, or Jesus, really Jesus, became on a whole nother level. I mean, like on a whole nother level. Now he takes me out and shows me. Sometimes I'll just be sitting there and everything will turn into a movie screen and he'll show me things. Like what you just talked about the book. That book.
Right.
I was just sitting outside talking to him, and I talked to him just like I'm talking to you. Yeah, I mean, it's like that. And all of a sudden, everything went black, and a light came on, and when it lit up in front of me, there was these people standing at podiums in a semicircle, and I was standing like in the opening of the semicircle, and I knew Jesus was right behind me on my right side, right beside me. And all these people had books stacked up on these podiums. And right next to me, there was this guy in a $5,000 suit. I mean, I didn't know how much it was till later, but I mean, he was dressed, like expensive. And there was different, there was the tatted guy right here. And then there was, just different people of different walks of life. And then on this side, right next to me, was a little old lady, and she only had a little bitty book, right? The guy over here across from her that's all dressed to the nines, he had a pile of books that was taller than him, from the podium. It went above his head. And all of a sudden, God spoke. And, I mean, it was loud. and he was judging everyone. And he would tell them, like, the books were everything they did in life, everything, like good and bad, right? And according to how good they were, it would give them treasures like gold and emeralds and stuff like that. I mean, like diamonds, and it would pile up. And it started with a little old lady, and he said, you know, she didn't have much, she didn't give much, but what she did do was really great in the kingdom of God. And this lightning bolt hit her book, and the table couldn't even hold all the jewels and treasure, right? It was like rolling off the side of it. And everybody's like, whoa, you know, even me, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, that is trip. I never said anything. And then he went around the thing, and everybody got a different, like some people had a lot of books, but then their treasure was like just a couple of little gems. And then some people didn't get anything. There was nothing, right? I mean, there wasn't anything. So then it got around to this guy, the one, you know, right next to me, and God was telling him, you know, all this stuff. And all of a sudden the lightning hit his books, this big pile of books, and it turned into just a pile of ashes. And he was the only one that got ashes. And I'm standing there like, whoa, you know. And the guy got indignant. He was the only one that argued with God. And he started saying, you know, I've been serving you for 45 years. And this is what I get, a pile of ashes. You know, I've been preaching, and I gave up my whole life for you, and this is all I get. And she didn't even do anything. She just had a little book, and look at her pile of stuff, you know, like that isn't fair. This is not fair. And then he said, and I think I remember him more because of how the other people were kind of like, eh. Well, he said, yeah, you preached the word for me, you know, and you served the church. But he said, you already got your reward. Look at your shoes. They're $500 shoes. You have a $5,000 suit. You have 2 mansions and a jet plane. You got all your rewards here. What else do you want? You don't get anything else. You know, and then all of a sudden I was back sitting there, and it was like, whoa, you know, and it gave me a lesson on what really is going on, you know, like how we should be in life, and how, you know, you shouldn't be.
Wow. That's pretty in-depth. That's very in-depth there, man. I mean, how do you even start with that? But let's get to a question here from Chad.
Okay.
How often, if ever, do you see synchronicities, repeating numbers? What do they associate themselves with?
Okay. I see 111 all the time, and I don't know what it means. Like I don't know, but I see it like a couple times a day. Like I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and when I look at the clock, it'll be 11:11, or I'll be in the car and I'll look at the clock on the car, it'll be 1:11. You know what I mean? It's like always constant. I'll look at my phone to see what time it is. It's like 11:11, 1:11. Sometimes it'll be 2:22, you know, like that, or 4:44, but that's not very often. It's mostly the 111s, the ones. I see so many ones, it's unreal. And I don't know what it means, really. I never really researched it. And I've got my wife doing it now, you know, like I'll come in the room and look down at my my phone and say, "Oh, 111," and I'll show it to her, and she's like, "Whoa, not again," And now she's starting to do it, get the 111s, and I have no idea what it means though. Maybe somebody does here. I don't know.
The 111 thing is angelic. Ones are angelic. So that's what that means.
111 is angelic?
Yes.
Like how? How?
I don't know. I'm not a numerologist, man. I'm just going by what I'm seeing in the chat room and everybody's saying.
Oh, really? Wait a minute. Okay. I don't know if I could see that chat, but 420. I saw that one. I know what 420 is.
Well,
one of my favorite things. No.
Let's go down the path for a minute here, and you have your near-death experience. It brought you closer to your own spirituality, and you kind of have an outlook of everything that is kind of going on here. So for you, with that near-death experience that you had, is it something that you would want to happen again? And if so, what would you do if it was different than the very peaceful one that you explored the last time?
Well, I wouldn't want it to happen again because of the after, like coming back, I didn't come back all healthy. I came back in a wheelchair and living in pain. It's been now 21 years, and I have it's a disease called reflex sympathetic dystrophy or complex regional pain syndrome, and it's the worst pain known to man, and I've been having to deal with that. So actually, if it happens to me, I don't want to come back. I want to stay on the other side because it's living hell ever since that. But I have asked God, why didn't he heal me? And I used to be the marketing director at a casino. In fact, I held different executive positions. I was the network administrator for a while, and then I was the food and beverage director over a couple of bars, a couple of restaurants. But my favorite one was marketing, and I was like 5 years as the marketing director. I actually got hired by Steve Wynn and was going to work over there for 5 casinos. I was going to be the president of marketing for Steve Wynn, but only I got hurt right then. And when I came back, I couldn't work for him. I was actually disabled. And it was a sad day because I told him I could still do it in a power chair. He's like, no. When you come rolling up, there's sharks over here. You're already at a disadvantage. They're going to be standing up looking down on you, and they're going to eat you alive. You won't be able to keep your job. I was like, dang, he's probably right because everybody I knew was a shark. But I wouldn't mind being on the other side, but I have 26 grandkids and all that, and I'm enjoying my life here, and except for the pain and stuff like that. So, but I wouldn't want to go back and forth. Like if I go, I want to be gone over there and stay there.
I don't blame you. I'm just not wanting to take the chance right now.
Oh, man. Somebody has CRP, complex regional pain syndrome. I feel so sorry for you. That is the worst thing it's like a sentence of death that won't kill you. I'm so sorry, Robin Hood. That hurts my heart.
Eddie is asking, Alan, have you ever found or heard of a staircase in the middle of the woods with nothing around?
Oh, man. Okay. Like, I don't talk about this very much.
Oh, damn it. But if you say you've seen one, I am going to trip because this is the one thing that freaks me out about going into the forest, man.
Okay. So when I was a kid, I grew up hunting with family. I mean, we were avid hunters. We hunted everything, right? Squirrels. And we ate everything that we hunted. Okay. It was mostly about the food and not the sport so much, right? And they always warned me. I mean, even when I was like 5, they were saying if you ever happen on a staircase, don't climb it. You know, I'm like, what? Why would there be a staircase in the woods? Like, if you ever happen onto it, don't climb it, right? Do not get on it. And then there was stories like the some of the family where they went on the staircase and they didn't ever come back. They disappeared. And then there was the story of 1 or 2 that went and somehow found their way back out and came out on the stairway and they were the ones saying, don't ever get on the staircase if you ever see a staircase. I have not seen one, but it was pounded into my head all the way, as a kid. If I ever see one, I'm on the lookout for them all the time. I really am. That's one of the things, man. That's so weird that came up. That gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
What do you think that phenomena is?
I have no idea, man, but according to my relatives, the ones that made it back, it takes you in a different dimension. The dimension where the aliens and everything are and the demons and stuff like that, it's in there. And that kind of is why I have that propensity to say the aliens and everything are demons, because that's what they saw over there. They described what they saw, and it was that. But only they could come back and forth, right? They could go back and forth at will, and we can't. And I always wondered, could we have at one time, right? Is there something we lost that they don't want us to know? I don't know. It's just interesting. Man.
No, it's totally interesting, and it's something that I think we all kind of look at it. We're like, this is one of these mysteries. We always hear about these stairways in the forest, and you don't hear about these stories too often. But I mean, I couldn't imagine walking, down some of the trails that I walk during, looking out for Sasquatch or whatever, and coming across a rock or a metal staircase going up and just ending. All I know is I'm not going up it. I do know that. I'm not brave enough to go up that. I'll go face to face with a Sasquatch, but I am not going up that stairway.
Well, going face to face with a Sasquatch is kind of like getting ready to go meet your maker, but only like you don't know where you go on the staircase. You might not meet your maker. You might go to a whole different time. You know what I mean? Like, you might fall out and be dodging chariots or something. or accidentally miss that flying car and go falling 30,000 feet or something. You know what I mean? You don't know where you're going. Like, it's weird. Scary.
I don't think that a lot of Sasquatch really want to rip your face off and kill you. I think if they had young ones around, maybe there's some rogue ones. It's much like killer whales are not going to harm you as a human, but there's always that rogue pod out there that doesn't give a care because they're kicked out of the main group. I could see that happening with Sasquatch, but do you really fear Sasquatch that much?
I've heard so many stories on the tribal side of it that like there I just talked to 2 girls, they're in their 40s right now, and they were at home, okay, and they knew that this one mountain was called Sasquatch Mountain or something like that, Bigfoot, whatever the tribal name was for it right there. Not far from here, maybe 20 or 30 minutes drive. And they both got abducted by this Bigfoot, and he raped one of them a lot. And then he let them go. And now this is like they were 11 years old when it happened. And they spent their whole life, both of them, planning on and tracking and they want to kill it. They haven't been able to, and they pretty much gave up now that they're in their 40s. But for 30 years, all they did was try to kill this Bigfoot. And they tried and they tried and they tried, but he outclassed them by a lot because he knew their intentions according to them. He could read their mind before they even got over there and knew they were there, and would taunt them with mind speak and told them he could eat them anytime he wanted, and they could do nothing about it. And, like, that was amazing. And I've talked to him a couple times already, and this isn't podcast stuff. This is just talking about him. I met him through a friend of mine. And so, like, the Indians, like the tribe I worked for 500 years ago, they had a war with the Bigfoot. And it was because they were stealing the babies and the women. And they were eating the babies, or they would, if they didn't eat them, they would raise them up to be the spouse, the woman. It was always female. They would always eat the males. So if they took a male baby, that was food. So one day they took the wrong baby. It was the tribal chief's baby. For number one son, right? Firstborn. And they tracked him down, and he was sitting up in a tree eating the kid. So they started shooting it with arrows, and it got away. And then it came back that night with like 50 other Bigfoots, and they killed everybody in the village, and only two or three people got away. And they ran to the other villages, and they got all the warriors together, and then they tracked these Bigfoot to a cave, so they knew they were in a cave system. And then that started the war, right? They couldn't get them to come out of the cave in the day, but at night, they were terrorized by them at night. And they always had them on the move, keeping them moving and stuff. And then one day, they figured out a way to smoke them out. They got into this one cave. They knew there wasn't a whole system of caves. So they smoked them out. And as they came out, man, there's like 200 warriors out there, and they were just killing them dead. And only 3 or 4 Bigfoot got away from that slaughter that they did on these Bigfoot. And 3 or 4 days later, the king of the Bigfoots, or the tribal chief of the Bigfoot, came, and they smoked the peace pipe and sat down, and they divided the woods. Okay, this is our area. If you don't go in there, we won't mess with you. And you stay over here, and we'll stay over there, and we'll be good, and we'll live together. And that's how it's been for like 500 years.
Wow. That's a heavy story, man.
Yeah, this one's written down too somewhere on the internet. And in fact, Kathy Strain, if you ever get a chance to interview her, she knows more about it than even I do. They Monsters and Mysteries in America approached me and said, "Do I want to tell the Bigfoot war story?" And they came and they interviewed us, and we talked about when we got the DNA and the spot that just burned, but they talked to us about all that, of how the DNA and some other encounters, my own personal first encounter, and then they mishmashed them all together into one story. But they had Kathy Strain on there, and I know Kathy and had known her for a long time because of the Thule resin, the painted rock that has the 8-foot tall Bigfoots painted on a rock with the whole family of Bigfoots,
right?
Like 1,000 years old, right? Well, she when they told us, hey, it's going to be on this certain day, you can watch it. We were watching it, and there's Kathy Strain telling the Bigfoot war.
All right. On that note, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We have Alan Thomas for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio, going to hour number 3. Then Fedora John is back with the UFO report. And we got Shirky Poo's news. A jam-packed hour 3 next on Spaced Out Radio. Well, that story was scaring the crap out of me.
Which one? The war?
No, the war and the gosh darn stairwell. You had to bring that up, didn't you?
Somebody did. That one always scared me too. Every time I'm in the woods, I'm looking for Bigfoot and that freaking stairway.
Yep.
One of my uncles actually drew, sketched it out. He saw it it was a wooden stairway, what he sketched, and it went up, and there was a platform, and then it went up, and it dead ended, and it was just sitting in the forest.
No, not me.
And it was like, he goes, if you ever see this, do not climb it. I'm like, and when you're a kid, what are you going to do, right? You're going to climb it. Oh, I would have. But yeah.
Nope.
I always been looking for it, though.
Not me, man.
Yeah, I won't either today. I mean, holy crap. I didn't know a lot of people knew about that, tell you the truth. I've only heard about it a couple times, outside of my family. Scary shit.
Totally.
Yeah.
I gotta try and get this echo fit. It's driving me nuts in my headphones. Driving me nuts.
Does your camera have a mic on it?
No. It's. I'm getting feedback through the channel that you're on, through my mixing board.
Huh.
So.
And when I mute it, it goes away.
No, it's. I gotta pot down the channel in order. When I'm talking. So when I'm talking, I'm potting down the channel and then I'm putting it back up when you speak.
Huh, that's weird.
Yeah.
I've seen that problem before, and it is I hate that.
Yeah.
It's the spooky thing in the wiring, and you're like, what the hell is doing that? A lot of times is when I have a guest and I'm using OBS and I'm using another thing, to take calls.
Yeah.
And it does that feedback, and it's called I can't remember what it is.
Looping.
Yeah. And there's a way to set it where you don't get it, where it won't happen. Yeah,
we're gonna have to go through our system. Figure it out.
See, like on this thing, you don't have that, right? Because of the way the link is going through the internet, you shouldn't have the issue at all, really. Yeah, it is distorting your voice, though, too.
Yeah. We got about 3 minutes.
My cousin is Quanah Parker. I seen her. She said, Magic Maiden says Sioux tribe. The story is not real. I worked for that tribe for 7 years, and I heard it from all the medicine men. They tell me it's true. In fact, they told me that my spot, that where we got the DNA and everything from the Bigfoot and all the encounters and everything, when he found out where we were going, he freaked out and told me I can't go there anymore because that is their area and they will not go there because that was the That was where they divided the land, and they go there, and these guys stay over here. And I was like, what? And that's how I even found out about the war. It was like that. I tell you, man, this is fun. I haven't told some of these or thought about some of this stuff in a long time.
My neck is killing me. I'm in rough shape today. Rough shape.
Holding the fader. See, I just realized I could read the chat. You know that? The whole time last time I didn't know at all. And then when you said chat, I was like, chat. Oh, there's two of them. And then I realized I can look at it. I can't comment, but I can look at it.
Square Hammer wants to know what you think of eating breakfast for dinner.
Do it all the time.
You're a sick man.
I even have dinner for breakfast and breakfast for dinner. And like, it doesn't matter. It's food.
All right, just hold on 2 seconds. Big thank you to Happy, TMI, Dirt Road, Noble Patrick, Spooky, Cat Chaser, Simon, and Cold Warrior for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate your love of SOR and everything you guys do to support us. It was great, and we really do appreciate the love. And we're going to come back here in 25 seconds. Thank you to all the veterans who are listening to this show. And remember, you always have a safe home here in Spaced Out Radio and in our chat room. And thank you to all the regulars who are in here and the newcomers. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We are here 7 days a week for your entertainment needs. Here we go. Get your horns up. Here comes Bumblefoot.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Just go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Imbrute. Imbrute is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight for the final time. We introduce Alan Thomas, quickly becoming one of our fan favorites around here with these great stories. We're going to talk some Bigfoot Sasquatch here as we continue on with the big show here on Spaced Out Radio. Alan, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here.
Really appreciate having you here as well. Now, for you, I mean, how have the forest fires affected your investigations down there in California?
Well, we have some areas that been going to for decades, or I have for decades, and then after I met my team, that we found afterwards, like the place that was divided from the Bigfoot War, that we didn't know. I didn't know that until recent, maybe like 5 years ago, but it's burned every single place, all the places I grew up as a kid. And right now, Sequoia National Park, Kings Canyon National Park are burning, and that's our spot. That's actually the place we got the DNA and stuff like that. And the Bigfoot seem to be reacting, because outside of the fire, there's a lot more activity. Only the Bigfoot are being more aggressive than they have. And now we're finding them down in the cities, running along the creeks and rivers and stuff like that. And they're more aggressive. They get in orchards and shake trees and scare everybody, the workers and everything. It's not good, you know. Like, I'm old, so all these forests that, you know, coming up on over 1 million acres burned in the last 2 years, I'll never see it like how I remember it, you know, ever again. I have pictures, I guess, but I'm real sad about it.
Do you think that the Sasquatch have the ability to know that the fires are happening and you know, well ahead of time, so that way they can try and formulate an escape route, much like many wild animals do?
Well, from all my research, they're in the granite areas where there's a lot of granite. That's where they live, in the high up granite areas. And we have a lot of caverns around here. And I think they live underground. I don't think they were affected by the fire like as life-threatening like all the other animals. And then once the forest is burned, you know, it's just a bunch of black trees. The ones that I've ever seen were black, like a black lab. So it makes it easier for them to hide even. They could hide in plain sight just by stopping and not moving. You know, just be totally still. You'll never see them. And there's still, like this year, we were out and about. The deer hunters are out right now. And there's deer in the burned areas. You know, a lot. I mean, one of my buddies counted like 30 deer in a 10-mile radius area. And so that means the Bigfoot are in there too. They love deer. So, I mean, that's how I seen Bigfoot. Deer hunting. I was in the migration where they go from the summer to the winter area. And they were there the same reason I was there, I found over the years.
Tony has a question for you. Alan, do you have any info about Sasquatch seen disappearing? And what's your thoughts about that?
I haven't seen it. Only I have seen them do, like I call them forest ninjas, because they can disappear. I mean, they could drop to their belly and be gone, or they can run behind a tree or a rock and you'll never see them again. Sometimes, like when I'm tracking them, I only find one track, or the trackway will end where there's no place for him to hide and there's no tracks. You know what I mean? It just ends right in the middle in a wide open area. But I have talked to, like on my team that we have, one guy watched one run. It was running about 500 yards and it was phasing in and out as it ran. And then it got down the way and it just scaled up a rock straight up and was gone. Something would take us all day to do. It did it in a couple minutes.
Wow. That's impressive. That is very impressive. I have some other questions from our audience here, if you don't mind. Carrie Ann is asking, Alan, do the elders talk about history of Dogman with their tribes?
Well, at first, they haven't, but I have to tell you that they wouldn't tell me anything for a long time because they thought I was just white. And when they do a really deep background search, and I never told them I had any Indian in me. And one day we were having a meeting and it come to find out I had more quantum blood amount than anyone sitting around the table. And they were like, oh my God, the guy is white and blonde. And how did you do that? You know, like, you're not Indian. They always called me white boy. From that time on, they wouldn't call me white boy. They called me white buffalo. But then they started opening up, you know, like I was always asking them about what does their tribe think about Sasquatch? You know, what does your tribe think about Sasquatch? And they would never tell me anything. The only thing that I've ever talked to them about a lot is the little people and Sasquatch, but never heard about the dog man.
Continuing on, Downshift is wondering, Alan, if you could paranormal investigate one final place in the world, where would you choose? What would you be looking for?
I would probably be up in your area in Canada or a little higher north to, you know, where the Inuits are. I forgot I was going to, I talked to the lady that got the trackway from that 25-foot Bigfoot. And, you know, and there was a track, you know, as big as a 43-inch TV. And she has pictures of it, and she gave them to me, and I forgot to put them on my computer. I was going to share them because you're like, no way, 25 feet. Yeah, 25 feet. And they also, when they get in the woods, the Bigfoots over there, and you could look this up online, the trees are huge, and they're turned upside down and stuck back in the ground. We're talking about big trees, and it's a known area over there, you know, so it has to be way bigger than 8 feet to be able to pull that size of a tree and then turn it around and stick it back in the ground. But I would be up there looking for that. That's where I'd be.
I think if I could investigate anywhere right now in North America, I would love to go up to the Nahanni Valley with the headless valley there, where they believe Sasquatch or some sort of monster was ripped off the heads of some explorers back in the 1930s. I'd like to try that out, man.
Let's go.
You know,
that sounds fun.
Here's the thing. As much as death freaks me out, I think that would be a good death, man. That would be a good, painful, but it wouldn't last long.
No, it would be over like, yeah.
You know? But I mean, it's
be like laying on the ground looking at the Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to happen. So if it's going to happen, you might as well. Not many people have bragging rights to say they've been killed by a Sasquatch. You know what I'm saying?
At least we don't know very many that we know of, right? They don't come back and tell their story.
Yeah. So I just figured that would be a good way to go. Not to sound morbid or anything like that, but I'm okay with that. Doug is asking, what do you think about the connection between Sasquatch and UFOs?
I know there is a connection only because, and just because of the hunting trip in Oregon, when I lived in Oregon and lost the tent, and there was, for 3 days, there was UFO reports, and then the Bigfoot was seen. And then also my buddy Adolf, where him and his friends were abducted, they were having Bigfoot around, you know, the night they got abducted, they were having tree knocks and hollering and whistling and stuff. So he thought there was a connection, and you know, then they saw the UFO come flying around, and he flashed his flashlight at it like an idiot, you know, and I told him, you're an idiot, dude. Everybody knows you don't flash your flashlight at an alien because you're going to wind up getting abducted. At least all the stories when I talk to people, the ones that got abducted, a lot of them, they flashed it with the light, you know. So, but they were having Bigfoot encounters or, you know, experience right there. And a lot of other people I know that go in the hills, like the natives, they talk about it too, where there's like especially the Thule tribe, the one with the painted rock, they have like emerald colored orbs, big like UFO balls or whatever you call it. Some of them are orange, but most of the time they're like a blue green, and they see them all the time. And then they have the Bigfoot. They'll start hearing the Bigfoot meowing like a kitty, like a kitten. And she sent me a recording of it too. I should put that on my computer, and one day I'll play that back. You can hear the steps coming, and then you hear it going meow, meow, meow. And they went out looking all over. They couldn't find the cat, but they knew it was the Bigfoot doing it. And so I think there's a connection. I just haven't made the connection yet, exactly.
I think there is one too. I mean, there's a lot of stories that we've been told over the years of people seeing Sasquatch on craft, seeing or hearing Sasquatch running through the forest, and then when the lights come around, that all of a sudden these Sasquatch are going silent or running away as fast as they can. I think there is something about this. Now, I don't believe that Sasquatch is of alien descent, or just as much as I don't believe that it is a primate of some sort. I think there is something special with this creature. But that being said, I think there is a natural fear that Sasquatch has of extraterrestrials as well.
I think so too. I agree 100% what you just said. I mean, I wish I knew more than that, but I agree with you. That sounds like what I think.
All right, let's go to Tony's question here. What size or weight do you think the creature was of the cast you were holding?
Okay. One of my friends, Mike Rugg, in San Jose or Felton, California, has a museum. This is Patterson Gimlin, and he gave it to me. This is the Patty cast, so I don't know. All I know is he gave this to me. I have some other ones that we've casted, but this is the prettiest one I ever had. It's like pristine, I have some other ones, though, that we keep them in another place. Our team collects them, so we keep them, where the team has it. You can go borrow it or whatever. You know what I mean? We don't. I never keep them. In fact, I'm not into casting things anymore. I was way back in the day, but that doesn't interest me anymore. Nobody cares. I got pictures of Bigfoot. I got audio of it screaming and roaring like King Kong. So far, nobody cares, right? It's fake. So, like, the only thing that's going to make anybody believe anything is if I bring one. But then if you talk like that, you're the meanest SOB in the world. What? You're going to kill one? So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. That's how I feel right now about it. And I'll probably never kill one anyways, unless it tries to kill me. And actually, I feel outgunned. Like, even if I have the 300 Weatherby Magnum that take down an elephant, I don't think I could take down the Bigfoot. And if I did, I don't think I would live to talk about it because the other ones are going to get me. While I'm messing around, trying to cut the hand off or the head off or whatever to bring back, they're going to take me out. So it would have to be totally self-defense for me to attack one. Or really not, I wouldn't attack it, but I would be self-defense.
Yeah, I really don't know if you could actually drop one, man. I really don't. I'm still... Maybe I'm a little too woo on that, but I'm not sure that there's a gun out there that could take it down. I just don't get it. I don't get it, man. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, but I'm just not sure.
I'm the same way. I feel... we carry 44 Magnums and stuff like that, and it makes you feel a little bit like, you might be able to defend yourself, but all the encounters I've had, they do some amazing things so fast and so graceful without any woo, right? This is just their abilities that I've seen. You don't have a chance. You absolutely don't. And I've hunted a lot of stuff, and you shoot something. If you don't hit it exactly perfect, it'll run off, and then you got to track it. Well, these things, if you don't hit it exactly perfect, it's not going to run off. It's going to come get you, and it's going to pop your head off. Probably like, that'd be it.
Oh, for sure, that would be it. I mean, I'm not questioning the strength or anything of this. I mean, these are creatures who are ripping trees out of the ground and then are being able to turn them around. I mean, these are creatures that are seen picking up, 400 or 500 pound deer, or 300 pound hogs, and swatting them against the trees in order to kill them. I mean, this is what we're seeing out there. This isn't something to mess with.
Well, like where we live at, some of my friends are loggers, and they tell me, like, they'll never tell you, you know what I mean? Like if you run up on them and you start asking them questions and stuff, they'll never tell you anything about Bigfoot because they're afraid they're going to be laughed at and stuff. And these are older guys, and they tell me stories of them chucking 55-gallon drums of fuel oil for their logging equipment, 100 yards. Like nothing. And all their drums they'll drop them off, and all of them will go home for the night. And then when they come back in the morning, the D9 is flipped over on its side, and all the drums are thrown way down, off the hill. And I mean, they're amazing what they can do. I wouldn't even mess around with like thinking anything else.
We had a situation up here a couple of years ago where a logging crew about an hour away from me was literally, half the crew was scared out because they were finding 18, 20-inch tracks all around their gear. And then as the logging job continued, they started finding like 450 pound rocks and boulders that were literally thrown against their big tractors and trucks and everything, leaving these massive dents in the tracks. And I mean, these guys were like, what the hell is this? And you're right, and we talk about this a lot on this show. The logging companies, as we only got about 2 minutes left, they don't want to talk about this. They'll lose millions. There's millions at stake.
Yeah, well, they don't want the bad publicity. They think it's bad publicity.
Sure. Sure. My friend.
It's more open now, though.
We got 90 seconds. And I apologize for a little bit of the audio issues that we were having tonight on the show. I didn't expect that like that. And we're going to try and get that cleared up. But I want to say thank you for quickly turning into a fan favorite here on Spaced Out Radio, bud. We really do appreciate that. We appreciate you and everything that you do. Take a minute here to tell everybody where they can find you and your information.
Well, you can find me on YouTube, and it's the dirty word, okay, Squatch Zone. And I actually was talking with Bobo, and he helped me come up with that name. And that's basically where I'm at, just Squatch Zone. And I have another one called The Radio Detective, where an old guy passed away, and I'm taking all his cassette tapes and putting them on the computer digital and putting his radio show back on. But that's the two places. And if you can find me on Facebook, I'm there.
When it's not down. Well, you know, I want to say a big thank you from all of us here, Alan, on the big show tonight. We really do appreciate you, my friend. Your stories are incredible. Your knowledge is fantastic. And I cannot wait to do this again. So thank you so much for doing that. And we really appreciate it. Coming up next, we have the fedora-wearing John Hudson. We're going to talk a little bit of Facebook, maybe some UFOs, and we have Shirky Poo's Newswire as well. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio when we return for the final half hour of the show. Take care. Dude, I'm really sorry about the audio issues tonight.
No problem, man. I've experienced it. No problem at all. I feel for you. Because I hate it too. Drive a guy nuts.
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. And you know, the audience doesn't, you know, like they're all like, yeah, it's okay, man. We can get through this. It's not a big deal. But they have no clue how much it drives you nuts, man. You know, because every show has to be somewhat perfect.
Yes.
Every show.
Yeah. It's lighting. I mean, everything has to be in its place, you know? Oh, my God. And I'm actually, like, running a bare bones type of thing. Right? This isn't my usual thing, but I'm helping my daughter and grandkids. So they have my studio. That's their bedroom.
Oh, I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, I'm going to let you go here because I'm going to go get ready for John Hudson in the news. But thank you so much, buddy. We'll stay in touch. We'll do this again in the new year, okay?
Okay. You guys have a good one.
Later, bud. Take care. All right. It's Big Bad Alan there. We like him around here. Give me 1 sec here, guys. I rebooted my sound system to see if that would improve anything. Oh. Hopefully it does. Maybe it doesn't. At this point, my hands are in the air. Oh, shoot. John, I thought I sent you the link. I thought I sent him the link. Well, somebody else has the link then. Oh well. I haven't called in. William F. Metz, what's going on, man? Yeah, on this board, you just can't swap the channels. It's not that easy, but we're going to figure it out here. Fedora John, how are you? Your beard is looking good.
You know, your board situation made me think of, Dave, is I was working for this company once, and we had this really high-end
Go ahead. You're sounding good.
Sorry, there's a weird delay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hold on a second here. Let's see. Is that normalized at all?
You're sounding great.
Okay, good. All right, cool. So basically, really complex config to give them uptime. You know, basically this incredible failover system. Mm-hmm. And after studying it, I found that over 2 years, maintaining that system and the mistakes that they made because of the complexity of the system caused them 3 hours of downtime, and the system only saved them 30 minutes of downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so much complexity that it did them harm. And let me tell you, the exec team was not pleased when I recommended them like removing this very expensive system they'd put in.
Yeah, now we're sounding great. I don't know what it is. I really don't. Maybe it was just my system needed a reboot. But it was getting bad there.
It's so hard for me sometimes because like I come from a world where like I've had systems where they haven't been rebooted in 10 years. Like 10 years. 5 years is not uncommon. And so this whole idea of like rebooting things to patch them and all this stuff is like really, it's weird.
Well, hold on. We have like 10 seconds. Excuse me. Rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Check out our swag, rock out to Bumblefoot, and read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's time once again for the Unbiased UFO Report. Yes, at this time we're joined. Oh, it's been one of those shows, man. We are joined by the fedora-wearing John Hudson, who's in the background laughing at me tonight. John, thank you. I need a little bit of humor right now in order to try and make this night just end. Just end. You know, it's very rare we actually have a show like this. And I feel bad. I feel bad for Alan because he is such an incredible guest. And, you know, I mean, he just didn't get my best tonight. I feel
well, you know what? Honestly, it was Alan's own fault for having such a good first show, you know, because it's hard to go anywhere from there, right? That's so, true. You know, in that, you know, he shouldn't have performed so well on that first show.
Well, the problem was he gave us one hell of a second show. I blew it, though. I blew it.
Well, I got to tell you, I understood what you said about being frustrated by the details, and also just the real time experience that you were going through hearing it. You know, it's a whole nother level of complexity. But the truth of the matter is, as a listener, it wasn't as bad as you think it was.
Well, that's nice.
It impacted your voice far more than it impacted his.
Yes, I would agree with that. All right. What happened with Facebook, man?
So did you all notice something today? Man, some of the memes have been going around and just been outstanding. Yeah, so as you may not have heard, Facebook went down for a little while today. So did, of course, Instagram and Messenger. This had cascading effects because, of course, once all those went down, what did everyone do? They ran to Twitter to complain about it. So then Twitter started having problems because of all this increased load that they weren't expecting. But, you know, I don't want to bore you, Dave, or anyone else with details, but I thought it might be helpful just to give a quick explanation of what happened. And we don't know why it happened, but we do know what happened. And that is that the internet runs on a protocol called BGP, okay? Border Gateway Protocol. It's a beautiful protocol. And it's one of the only really good protocols that works like on every system, and it allows for incredible interoperability on the internet. The problem is that it's a little bit hand-driven in that essentially each network has to advertise what it knows. So Facebook advertises, this is how you get to my DNS servers. These are the networks we run. This is how you get to the networks we run. These are the other networks we know how to get to that you might want to get through to from us. And they have to advertise this. And there's these advertisements that go out. Well, today at Facebook stopped telling anyone who they were. And so it initially looked like a DNS problem because their DNS wasn't responding. It wasn't that. It was that they stopped telling anyone they even had DNS. They stopped telling anyone anything. Like they just went quiet. And it looks like it was most likely just a configuration error. Just someone just messed up a configuration file. We don't know that for sure. And honestly, we may never get the full story out of Facebook because a lot of times companies have trouble being really honest about what went wrong, which is sad because humans make mistakes. Life goes on. But essentially what happened was that Facebook stopped advertising how to get to them and how to talk to them. And so the whole world went poof, and Facebook just vanished. And so it just gives you all a little bit of an idea of how, in some ways, fragile the internet actually is, because it's very opt-in from a networking point of view.
You know what? You're probably 99.9% right on this, but I'm going to tell you, man, the conspiracy theorist in me, if I put on my tinfoil hat, it says that I wonder if it had anything to do with that whistleblower going on 60 Minutes the night before.
Oh, well, now here's the thing. How it happened within Facebook, how that advertising stopped happening could have been a disgruntled employee that was now very mad about that press conference. It could have been all sorts of things. So we don't know why they stopped advertising. So there's still a whole nother story on the Facebook side as to what went wrong. But from the outside world point of view, Cloudflare and a bunch of other really, great shops did a lot of great analysis, and I'll include it in my notes. And we know exactly what happened, what time, what stopped being advertised, at a packet level. We know exactly what happened. But what happened on the inside, and sometimes this is conspiracy driven. There is something called BGP hijacking, where a nefarious character can advertise someone else's routes. And there have been cases where large portions of the internet have been sucked down in 3 hours by another country because they accidentally advertised the wrong routes. And in some cases, it's not accidental. So sometimes there is nefarious things going on.
Now, apparently there's a report going around that on the dark web, because of this crash, 1.5 billion people, which might include you and me as well, have had their information stolen because of this. Are you buying that, or is it just another ruse from the dark web?
No, I mean, that doesn't actually really make any sense because basically, you couldn't get to Facebook, so I'm not sure how you'd be grabbing any data from them. Basically, if someone starts offering prices for that data, then things get a little more real, right? But the truth of the matter is it just like with your credit, right? The way you manage your credit is not to track every credit card. It's to check your credit report. And if you see something suspicious, you act on it. It's the same thing with your data. You cannot control what's going to happen to your data. In the US, if any place goes bankrupt, they will auction off all your data, and they have to. The judge will make them. So there is absolutely no protection of your data. There's no reason to worry about it. Just worry about what people do with it.
All right. Einstein's assistant apparently recorded an interview right before her death about the Roswell wreckage. This is interesting, my friend.
This story it doesn't have a lot of information yet. Right now, you can read about it on Mystery Wire. It's potentially huge. So the whole idea is that Einstein had an assistant, and this assistant was interviewed some time ago, and I believe in '93, and she then passed away, I believe in 2012, I think it was. But the person that recorded that interview kept it, and essentially someone got their hands on it through tracking down this woman. And in this this testimony this woman gave, she claims that in 1947 Einstein was invited to an emergency meeting in New Mexico, and she had to go with him because she was his assistant. And they landed at a base, and they were ushered into a hangar, and there was a disc-shaped craft there that looked damaged, and there were 5 beings. There was one of them that was still alive, that was gasping for air and trying to communicate, but couldn't. And she described the beings, she described the ship, and she said that after Einstein was kind of showed around the hangar and shown everything, he was asked to leave. She was told to keep her mouth shut. Einstein then had to go back and write a report. That report went somewhere. No one knows. Unfortunately, no one has been able to confirm this by outside sources because no one can track down his itinerary. No one can track down the flight records. No one can confirm what Einstein was doing that day because this has been looked into. And I don't know if the interview tape is going to come out yet. We need to look into that because it's just breaking on Mystery Wire. But if there's any legs to this, this is not only a big deal, this is a super fun story.
Oh, yeah. And this is the kind of juice we love. This is completely the kind of juice we love and need.
Yeah, and the thing is that there's little snippets in the story that give it some weight. Like, for example, the assistant said that, when they got into the hangar and they saw everything, that she was terrified. She was just literally terrified. And when she looked over at Einstein, he wasn't. He was not at all, but he was intensely curious. And what he basically said was that he became intensely wondrous about what the propulsion system was and what he could learn about the nature's view of physics that he didn't understand. So when he immediately saw it, he went to, how can this help me? Right? How can this help me solve the problems that I'm working on? And that's pretty Einstein. So there's a couple other data points. I highly recommend everyone go to Mystery Wire and check it out. I'll provide links, but this is a fun story, and the fact that they have the actual audio of the interview, which I have not heard yet. I don't even know if it's available yet, but the fact that audio recording exists means that things like voice analysis might be able to be done, other analysis might be able to be done. This story has some legs to go on it, and it's a really exciting, fun one.
Oh, man.
It's a cool story. And it will cause this domino effect because, if you look at the guys back then, Einstein, Feynman, there's all these guys that were doing all this crazy stuff. And, every once in a while they would make little comments and it would just be kind of like, well, wait, did that mean anything? Or is that just Feynman? Right. And do you start getting any concrete data that they had any involvement in any of these programs? Now you can, from that data point, start branching out and saying, okay, well, does that add any inference to this? Does that mean that this had any more weight? This is a big story.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how much work Einstein did for the United States military and government. I mean, when we look at Einstein, we always think of E equals MC squared. We're not looking into his role into, being right on scene during nuclear weapons testing or rocket testing or anything along those lines. We see him as the great genius who was solving all of these mathematical and physics type of theories and establishing them. But I mean, this was a man who was highly involved in a lot of dark projects. And I don't see, yes, it's another deathbed confession. Yes, there's going to be the people who roll their eyes at this. But I just do not see Einstein's personal assistant lying about something like this before she died. She obviously wanted to get it off her chest.
Absolutely. And let's face it, there were so many other stories that she had to tell about Einstein that would have honestly made her a lot more money than this one, right? There were so many personal stories that she had at her disposal, so much knowledge she had. This was not something that was going to help her in any way, right? I think there's some good possibility on this one.
All right, let's move on. Lou Elizondo talking again. Who is he on with, and what were they talking about? Okay, so for those of you in the kind of Gen X sort of age group, you remember MTV, right? You remember VJs, right? Do you remember Kennedy,
right? She did that show Alternative Nation. She was this very hard-nosed, very libertarian, very in-your-face, brilliant woman that, like, I don't know, for me as a kid, like, had a big impact on my perception of how news should be investigated and taught and so forth. And it turns out she's still alive, and she works at Fox Business News. And so she interviewed Elizondo, and in the very Kennedy way, she was hard on him. It's a short interview. I'll post it. But basically, he talks and talks and talks, and she's like, yeah, but can you stop tap dancing and, like, tell me something? Like, and he's like, well, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, that's not very interesting, And he's just like, he had to keep, like, and so finally at the very end, he basically, coughed up and said, well, one thing that's not been reported is that there was, there was 1 month with 37 incidents in 1 month. And in that month, there was up to 7 incidents in 1 day. And even that, she was like, she was like, whatever. And so then he's like, well, there is also some evidence that there was some medical impact to some of these people, and that needs to be investigated. And she's like, there you go. That was great. Why didn't you start with that? Now we have to end the interview. And it just cuts. It's beautiful. I mean, it is just, it's only like, I forget how long it is. It's like 2 minutes or something. It is a fantastic interview. She basically says to Lou what so many of us have wanted to say to Lou. And she still wasn't rude or anything about it. She was just, she was just dedicated, and it was cool. It was, many props to Kennedy. She was in her, it was awesome.
You know what I've been noticing lately is there has been a lot of grief in the UFO community about, shipping away from Kennedy and moving over to Tucker Carlson for a second. But there has been a lot of heat on Tucker Carlson and his coverage of UFOs lately on UFO Twitter, and people really condemning, him keeping going after the story. It's created quite a debate recently. Have you been following this?
A little bit. I often get turned off pretty quickly because people start letting their own opinions about Tucker come into it, and you have to suspend that to a degree. I mean, because I'm one of those people. Like, I am not a Tucker fan. Like, I have heard things come out of that man's mouth that just freaked me. Like, really disturbed me.
You want to give him a good shaking.
Yeah. I mean, just really, just caveman stuff coming out of this guy, right? And but the fact is that none of that comes into this reporting, and he's the only bloody person doing it, right? Like, I mean, I maybe in the beginning, right? But there's nobody consistently bringing this up and consistently letting Lou talk and consistently, and this was actually an interesting interview because they really went over the 5 pages in the military spending bill, and what each section means and why it's a big deal. And so that's why that Tucker Carlson interview is really good. But what I can't get out of any of that debate on Twitter is whether anyone's really specifically critiquing the way he's interviewing Lou, like Elizondo. Is he like, are they saying he's softballing it? Like, I don't get any of that. All I get is people fighting over whether Tucker should be given any time at all because of who he is.
Stick around. Let's talk about that in the after show. If you don't mind, good. We're going to get to the news right now. Shirky Boo's got us all set up for the SOR Newswire tonight, so we're going to get right into it right off the bat. All right. Blue Origin confirmed that legendary Star Trek actor William Shatner will be a part of the company's next space tourism flight later this month, becoming the oldest person to visit space. At the age of 90, Shatner, good Canadian kid, will surpass Mary Wallace Funk as the oldest person to head into space. The 82-year-old Funk headed into space on Blue Origin's first human flight on July 20th. Blue Origin's Vice President of Mission and Flight Operations, Audrey Powers, will also join the crew, which includes the previously announced Dr. Chris Boeshuisen, co-founder of Planet Labs, and Metadata co-founder Glenn DeVries into space. Great. We got another bunch of millionaires and billionaires heading up there to tell us how great their lives are. Isn't that nice? All right, moving on. A 6-year-old, good for this kid, by the way, was walking with his family in a Michigan nature preserve and made a rare discovery. What did he find? A 12,000-year-old mastodon tooth. Julien Gagnon, good for this kid, was walking with the family in the Dinosaur Hill Nature Preserve back on September 6th when he found an object that he initially identified to his parents as a dragon tooth. I just felt something on my foot. I grabbed it up, and it kind of looked like a tooth, the youngster said. Gagnon's parents allowed him to bring his discovery home, where the family took a closer look and realized that it might indeed be a real fossil. Yeah, they checked it out at the University of Michigan Museum of Paleontologists, which identified the discovery as the upper right molar of a juvenile mastodon that lived about 12,000 years ago. Good for that kid. I love it when kids find stuff like that. A North Dakota man said he removed about 42 gallons worth of walnuts from his pickup truck after a squirrel apparently chose the vehicle as its winter storage area. Bill Fisher said he had repeatedly spotted the red squirrel climbing on his Chevy Avalanche while it was parked outside his home, but then he discovered the small animal was filling it up with walnuts from the tree in his yard. A lot of places in the radiator fan all the way through here. The corner has been filled with walnuts. It was planning on camping there for the winter, the youngster said. But nonetheless, the walnuts are out and time for a different area. Well, here's a sad one. Wine's supposed to make you happy, right? We all know that drinking too much of it, though, can lead to a whole slew of health issues. 4 Italian men, all part of the same family, died last week near the town of Paola in southern Italy. They were taking part in the family's annual tradition of making wine to drink with their meals over the next year. Other family members discovered Santino and Massimo Carnevale and brothers Giacomo and Valerio collapsed on the floor of the small cellar when they were fermenting grapes. By the time first responders arrived, they had suffocated to death due to carbon dioxide fumes emanating from the fermentation vat. That is absolutely horrible. Horrible way to go. But, hey, they went out the way they love, making wine. Want to say a big thank you to Captain Shirky Poo for the newsy news that we got tonight. You can find her on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Thank you to the fedora-wearing John Hudson for the unbiased UFO report. And to Alan Thomas for coming on in, talking about some really cool, freaky stories from UFOs to near-death experiences and everything in between. Big shout-out to the Rattler and Super Len for allowing us to be a part of their nights as well. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight, YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, Revolution Radio, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.